Hey, and welcome to the Reset Podcast. Everything you need to know that your therapist probably never told you. Researched by experts, real life experiences. This is Reset.
Do you know what makes me angry? You know what makes me angry.
I have a list.
It's a short list.
A short list.
It's definitely a short. But what's my number one? I mean, even last night, I was going like I had to leave the room sometimes.
Oh, yes. The way that therapy and therapists are portrayed in Hollywood on TV shows and / movies.
It's horrible. I can't watch it. It's either it's so inaccurate or completely unethical. I just can't.
Most creatives struggle with mental health. So I guarantee you that half of the people in that room, or over half, whether they're behind the scenes or in front of the camera, have been to therapy. We all know that nobody sits there with a notepad, ever.
Well, then that's the scary part. Maybe I'm so off that maybe
in your own therapy.
Yeah, that my own business, my own world, that maybe that's what's still going on. It's the notebook, sitting on a couch, therapist behind, just saying, how does that make you feel?
Wait, is that how therapy used to be? They actually used to write notes in front of the client?
Yeah, so Freud with psychoanalytical, right, therapy, psychoanalysts go 5 days in a row. He will sit behind you and he'll just take notes as you just free association. You just talk. He says nothing.
Oh, wow. Your anger, though, is not on the level of when I think of anger.
Yeah, I don't consider myself an angry person. But I do know is the fact that I think we all have moments and seasons of having anger. And when things don't go away, expectations aren't met, people letting us down, or like right now, the big one's breakups. I'm seeing so many, like I always said, February into March is like breakup season for everyone, divorce season. So I'm seeing a lot of anger, and it's crazy, but we really don't know what to do with anger. They're just not taught by our parents. We're not taught at school how to handle, I call it. See, my clients, I call it Baby Hulk. Oh, Baby Hulk's coming out. So what do we do with Baby Hulk when he comes out? Does Baby Hulk need a hug? Does Baby Hulk need to work out? Does Baby Hulk need to do some journaling? Does Baby Hulk need to take a little, meditation, deep breathing, relax, come back? Like no one has Hulk-like anger.
Mm-hmm. He has a lot of unresolved things in his life.
There's so much stuff going on with him. So much trauma.
Maybe we should psychoanalyze all of the Avengers.
That'd be fantastic for one of our episodes. but Baby Hulk makes it sound like it makes it cute. Mm-hmm. Oh, Baby Groot.
Here is what is interesting. When we were talking about what we were going to talk about, and we were talking about anger, I was telling you, I feel like I'm angry a lot. And I had said, like, I get irritable or I get frustrated or overwhelmed, like those feelings. And you pointed out that's not anger. So I also think a lot of us don't realize what anger is, if that makes sense. I think, I'm feeling unsettled and frustrated. I'm angry. But anger is actually like a really heightened, big emotion.
Right. Anger was originally put into the category of a primary emotion. It's now turned to more of a secondary emotion, which in this example for you is unresolved primary emotion. In this case, unresolved irritability will lead into anger. Unresolved depression leads to anger. Unresolved grief leads to anger. Unresolved anxiety, unresolved disappointment, unresolved embarrassment will lead to anger. Anger is really just your engine of your heart light is going on. It's like, hey, we're overheating. You need to figure out what is causing this overheating. And so in therapy, even in anger management, you don't talk about anger because they found out in research that the more you talk about anger, the more angry you'll get. And so we have to talk more about the primary. Like, let's talk about your irritability. Let's talk about your anxiety. Let's talk about the moment you're embarrassed. When you're able to express that, like we're really talking about emotional intelligence here, the ability to recognize what you want to talk about and zone in on that emotion, then you're able to resolve anger because you're really resolving the primary emotion. But so many of us, we don't go to a point of expression or we don't go to a point of activity around an emotion until it gets unresolved and gets to anger because we have no other choice because either A, people are watching us, and now we're like, oh my gosh, spotlight's on it. I got to deal with baby Hulk. Or B, you disappoint yourself. And I think for me, usually I disappoint myself. And then that is when I realize, okay, I have to deal with what's going on. What is out of control? In emotional intelligence, anger equals you owe me. So a lot of times we feel like you owe me certain words, you owe me money, you owe me time, you owe me a certain maybe behavior. Whatever is happening is anger comes from a you owe me moment in the mind, or you owe me statement. And so if we're able to understand like who owes me what, I feel like, and actually express that, I feel upset, even angry, or in this case, irritable, because I feel you owe me.
So does anger always come from, like you were saying, somebody owing them somebody something, or a situation, or that's just interesting. My brain is just processing.
Right. So obviously relational could cause it, right? Could cause that primary emotion, a relationship, breakup, just talked about it, or your partner not fulfilling certain needs or expectations after they've been met or expressed, right? So we know it could be relational. It could be situational. There's certain situations in which are just very difficult.
I guess that'd be grief.
Right. Or just very exasperating situations. It could be, it could be work. Work is just very frustrating. It could be having a certain boss, which in that certain situation, so whoever's in charge of that situation is very difficult to handle, because that could be, causing those feelings of fill in the blank that is unresolved, that maybe it's like helplessness. I feel helpless in this situation, so I don't know what to do with that, or maybe you just got diagnosed with something and like just tremendously floods you with the feelings of helplessness, which then turns into anger, like the stages of grief like we talked about before. Or it could be even environmental, meaning it's just certain environments that we step in. You just feel a certain presence with it. And if you're stuck in that presence for too long, then in that case, it could be difficult. I think I have some of my clients who come from divorced families where they do like a week on, week off. And one parent sees anger, the other one doesn't. And I think the environment of one home can be so exasperating, so tiring. I feel like I'm not being heard. Like you owe me your ears, you owe me your verbiage, you owe me certain, fill in the blank, right? And that environment ends up just being very difficult, and it cannot be resolved over time. So then that parent's stuck with it. The anger child, the baby Hulk comes. So obviously, the first thing to do when it comes to if you have anger problems or feeling anger, at least for me, is I have to ask myself what is causing this. What is the unresolved emotion or what is being unresolved that's exasperating me to a point of anger? I think it's very important to do that. If you have a person to actually go to, if it's actually a person that's causing it, and go to that person and express your needs, then that's probably a great step to do. If it's processing it through writing, or a lot of times to say with anger is get out of your mind, get into your body, like go for a workout, go for a walk, go for a run. I was thinking about the aspects about how EMDR therapy was created, which the person who created it basically went for a walk and went back and forth through her eyes and realized that by doing that, it just made them feel more tranquil. And so the worry, anxiety, anger would go away. It kind of creates that breakthrough. So again, getting outside, go for a walk, get into your body, work out, get on the Peloton, make it happen. Like how much that kind of really does that you think about, like it breaks ground for new seeds to be planted. Because until then, the ground's just too hard to do that.
Got to till that soil.
Got to till that soil. Got to be tillers in life.
So obviously awareness. I mean, that's like a hard thing for some people to have, though, if they don't have it. We're saying you're angry right now.
Right. And that's when at times we talk about, I just talked about, which is either there's kind of a environmental feedback from others, you realize it, or you say something, do something that triggers in you of like, man, that ain't me.
Yeah.
And I'm embarrassed. So how do I create that margin to allow me to work on that emotion that's not being resolved, and when it builds up to a certain level, that's when I say, okay, I got to work on that emotion now versus it gets to the baby Hulk stage. The problem is when you go from, let's say, we talk about as our kids, you go from green light to red light.
Yeah, you skip over that yellow.
Yeah, you can't, nothing can be fixed and nothing can be communicated when there's anger.
Yeah.
And so we go back to is when we're able to get into that primary emotion and recognize that primary emotion is causing me to be angry, and we're in that zone, that is the time to deal with it. But when we're in the angry red zone, that is when we need to self-resolve. We need to somehow have a strategy to get us back to the yellow or green zone so we actually get express and talk about it. Because the mistake a lot of people make is they make others who are angry forced to talk it out right then. And that's not the time. That's when hurtful words are said, hurtful sentences are said, things that we don't mean is occurring. We don't want that. Think about like the mean drunk, the angry drunk, saying all the wrong things, all the wrong time. So timing matters. So there is a point where it's like we're in that red, angry zone. We need to do as individuals, take responsibility and get to that yellow, green zone that allows us to have a proper expression, communication, dialogue around the primary emotion.
Which then makes me think a little bit, it's a little off, but when we were talking about being reactive versus being responsive, you can really see this in someone who's struggling with anger.
Well, someone needs to be a hero if this is happening in a dynamic situation between two people, right? A relationship, where that may be. Is someone needs to step up, be the hero, and say and recognize, and I teach this to with my clients, is someone needs to say, I think that we're getting angry, getting upset, or to make it nicer, I think we're going to a red zone. And if the person is not obedient with that, doesn't agree to that, then we just got to walk away and say, and give like a timeout time by not having our presence there. Because you shouldn't be an audience to someone who's, or you shouldn't give audience to someone who's angry. That's just foolish. Period. Kid, parent, spouse,
that's
boyfriend,
also
girlfriend.
Exasperation too, right?
100%. Will exasperate you if you're the calm one.
Yeah.
But I think it's very good for us to understand and be able to name and prioritize the primary emotions. Have the sense of self-awareness when these emotions get into our mind or get into our hearts and trigger this warning light or need service light comes on. I think that's when we got to attack. We got to be aware of that. So I think that's if we feel neglected. I think if we feel sad, depression, anxiety, I think when we feel embarrassed, I think we feel irritable, I think we feel stress, when we feel overwhelmed, I think worry, I think when we feel helpless or even hopeless, those emotions, and of course there's probably more that we're missing, come in. We need to then attack that. I think a lot of us have a lot more margin to work with those and are more patient with those behavior or those emotions, and we don't deal with it. But then when baby Hulk and anger comes out, that's when we say, okay, now I got to deal with it. And I think the tactic and strategy needs to be is I need to be more aware of when these emotions come out and start expressing, using my words, having the conversations, having the dialogue, because that's probably when you're usually in that green and yellow zone before it gets to that Hulk red zone.
This is the part of our show where we talk about our opinions on the things that we observe. Observe and then respond, don't worry, you cannot be wrong. It's all about the way that your mind works. Observation feedback.
So TikTok and Instagram, but mainly TikTok's really making this big move. They want you to go live. Like if you wanted to grow your brand, you want to be seen and known, they want you to go live. And Instagram is wanting to do that as well. Like they're going to reward you for it. And I see myself like, why is that happening? Just like sitting back as just
observing.
Observing as a social psychology professor. Like, why is that happening? And I realized that we are moving towards, and I really do believe, is we're going from less of like a social media addiction and more into what I call a voyeurism addiction. And where we want to see people in their homes live, talking as they cook or getting ready as they're doing something, like getting dressed as some of them are, or them doing like a podcast.
It's easier to relate to.
Like people want to be able to peek in as if no one's watching them, to watch people as they talk, or just hold up a piece of paper that says, make me talk by telling me a funny joke. Is people want these live connections as if it's voyeurism, not really at all participating in them, but the idea of just that sense of power that you have to watch something live without them knowing that you're watching it. Mm-hmm. It's literally creating voyeurism in people.
Can you please explain voyeurism to the people?
Yeah, and to be clear, voyeurism really comes from the diagnosis of like the peeping Tom, like someone watching someone get dressed or watching someone either like have sex or watching someone, through the window, the peeping Tom. Usually errs on the aspect of like sex, like that inappropriate area. But in this case, I am using it as a term of watching people without them know that you're watching them, and be able to get kind of that high of be able to get into someone's world and step into it for how long you want it to be as they're going live, and taking a step back. And what that really does feed is a few things. I think it feeds the aspect of control of power, like kind of like a sociopath, right? I mean, narcissist. But it also trains us and teaches us, you think about it in many ways, is for us to be a voyeurist and enjoy the aspect of being part of someone's lives without being part of their lives.
Okay, when you put it that way, it's like really creepy to think about.
Well, and maybe I'm overthinking this. I'm just thinking I'm usually about 4 to 5 years ahead of trend. I'm just going to my horn here when it comes to a lot of stuff. And even when I used to talk about stuff about smartphones 12 years ago, parents would bat their eye. No, this guy's crazy or other stuff. But I'm just telling you there's a reason why social media is moving towards that, is they're realizing that there's an aspect of human behavior that actually is highly interested, in times maybe addicted, more addicted to the ability to be hyper focused on someone going live to see what may happen, what could happen, and to be in that interest of being in someone's lives without them knowing that you're recognizing it. I think it's I don't know.
Well, and live is more intimate because mistakes can happen, and like it's real, quote unquote, real life, as opposed to a vlog or something, which I still think you could experience that voyeurism kind of aspect to it, because you're in someone's house and you're putting your makeup on with them and going shopping with them, and they make you feel like you were literally a part of their day, the whole day. And I have actually had a strange feeling sometimes watching those, being like, I'm in the car with this person. I'm now here with this person. I shouldn't be here. Like but it does kind of spur this curiosity. I'm like, I got to keep watching. Like, I want to know more. Oh, that's so cute in the background. And that's why all these influencers are like, oh, yeah, I got this vase, blah, 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 blah. Here's the link. Here's this. Oh, what color lipstick are you wearing? Blah, blah, because you start then wanting to become that person. You actually can start connecting, and you feel like you know them, and you really don't know them.
Well, the wild part is I got stuck on some of these live moments, and they go nowhere. And so to me, it's like, for example, remember that one night you're like, what are you listening to?
Oh, yeah.
And I'm like, I don't know what I'm even looking at right now.
Yeah.
And I was watching, and I was stuck on this live of this person that
Very culturally
I'm really
relevant.
hoping that they created this character of theirs, the way that they looked, perceived, like it was wild.
Yeah.
And yet very boring, to be honest with you,
Yeah.
because they are really talking nothing of substance, but the amount of people who were just commenting on either if it
Intrigued.
was
Makeup.
piercings, makeups, hair, or just people want to know, like, where's your dad at? Do you have mommy issues? Like, it was so weird and
weird.
interesting at the same time. That's like a lot of stuff I feel like is meant to be sacred. People go on live for it. And the big one right now is, which is so interesting for us to, I don't know, at least for me in my analytical mind, is people holding up signs and saying, I won't talk until you give me a joke that makes me laugh. I won't talk until, like one yesterday was like, I won't talk until a girl who's 10 out of 10 comes on my screen.
Oh my gosh.
And I'm like, that's interesting. How are people, like, what is social experiment we're having right now?
That's so weird.
Right? Like, what is social experiment? And so I just watched that. I'm like, no way girls are going to go on there. Well, girls do.
Of course, because they want the
And then-
information.
right. And the next page, he either points to a yes or a no. Right. And no. Realizing these girls don't realize is if he just picks the first girl, then it ends his life. Right. And so he just wants to more people focus. Like, it's just unnecessary drama. But it's wild that people would do it. But we're talking about, it wasn't teenagers. I think the guy was probably in his 30s.
Oh, jeez.
But it's just wild. I don't know. I just think it's interesting that they're pushing it towards that. So my thought is, I don't know yet, is what is human beings, response going to be psychologically to these live, which is basically like live channels? What is our response going to be to that? How's that going to form another aspect of our brain, another aspect of our relationship towards screens? What's going to come out of that? And I don't know yet. And maybe the viewer, maybe I'm wrong. It's not the viewer's the issue. That's going to change. Maybe it's actually the product, the person on the other side, that may create, who knows?
Narcissism?
Yeah, I think about how we were so worried about like spotlight effect issues or audience complex, we used to call it. Everyone thinks everyone's looking at them all the time. And maybe that's the byproduct of the viewer is because they watch so many live,
Wow.
I don't know what we'll call them, videos that are going on. Will that create more of an audience complex in people, which is really just social anxiety? I don't know.
And there are some lives where, you know, like we follow a couple like singers. I kind of love when they go live because it's like they sing their songs. It's totally different.
I think artists is different. I think
It's
an
different.
artist
or
goes
even painting
live.
live. Like it's
Yeah, I think
cool.
when musicians go live, when actors go live and like practice their craft, I think
Yeah.
when voice over actors go live, and I think when Joe Jardine goes live and does questions about
Absolutely.
mental health,
No, but
it's 100% okay.
No, I truly think Q&As are different though. Q&A is different. It's not like
It's different
you saying,
than the person who's just
Yeah.
standing there, either
Interesting.
looking like a freak show or with barely anything on,
right.
and just sitting there not really talking.
Okay, can I just say where I thought you were going to go with this could actually have a positive spin?
Sure.
I truly think hearing you say that, I can see for sure that weird peeking behind the curtain because it kind of gives you this weird high and like, oh, what is this person going to say feeling.
Yeah.
But when you first said this is the way it's going, I actually was wondering if it's because we know social media is a highlight reel. We know social media, or obviously now it's becoming people like to say sacred things that maybe shouldn't be on there, but this open book for anybody. But I was wondering if going live could create more vulnerability because we could edit our videos to make us look any way we want. But if you're live, again, there's that chance for mistake. There's that chance for mishap. And maybe not in the respect of the person just sitting in their room with moody lighting answering like no purpose behind it, but with a live that has purpose, whether that is an artist or us saying, hey, ask us questions. You can see those people in real time responding where you're like, oh, they actually have that wisdom or they actually are talented or they actually, does that make sense? Because you could produce and create anything you want behind the scenes with a filter and
That's
good
interesting.
editing.
The interesting thing about
Live,
it is that
there's no
maybe
editing.
the live actually creates this imperfection that's actually more personable to viewers.
So that's where
And
I was
so
thinking
maybe
it
the
was going.
byproduct of this is nothing. That maybe it's actually a healthier relationship towards social media. But I think the majority of the live, specifically on TikTok and Instagram seems to be a little more informational.
Yes.
On TikTok is airing on people going live who are egotistical around either their bodies or this person who they formed, and they want to show off their creativity of self, meaning like, because this is put out there, I don't know what they look like.
Yes.
And so
I think it's both. That's what I'm saying.
Well,
Is I actually think it's both.
Yeah, it's interesting. People are going live in like these third world countries who are showing them do these jobs we didn't know existed. Like one of them was she makes like kind of like those sounds really like those air bags that fit in packages. And she's there for going live for like 13 hours and just sits in this factory. The factory workers who go live is really interesting. They don't talk. They set it up and they show it. And then obviously people are giving them money or coins, as they say in TikTok world, to give them like they feel bad, right? But it's to me as an adult, I guess looking at it, it's interesting to be like, wow, like a lot of stuff that gets to us may start in these third world countries or even, and sometimes they're in China, where these factories are people working there for 12, 15, so it creates awareness. So there's
empathy.
that good part of it. I think there's the awareness part of it.
Yeah.
But be honest, that's just a small percentage of it.
Right.
Majority of it is just these people whose egos are wrapped around their audience and hoping and wanting to get a confirmation bias or wanting to get, some
Very
type of
interesting to think
affirmation
about.
around who they are in unhealthy ways. which
Yeah.
is that I think right there is where the tragedy occurs.
This is an interesting thing to think about with social media because we all know, there can be just such negative parts of social media. There can be some positive ones, but I was the first one to admit as well that I can go down the rabbit hole or waste my life on it or whatever it is and realize nothing good, nothing fruitful came from it, right? So is it going to get worse? Is it going to change? Is it going to get different? Is there going to be maybe a more positive spin? Who knows? So it's just interesting to see the way social media is going.
It's interesting to see the evolution of it because it's got to change. There has to be a change or people get stuck on it. People get
Or
sick.
bored.
I'm sorry.
Yeah.
People get bored on it.
Yeah.
And these makers know this. We know that even the marketing developers around this know this.
Yeah.
It's like our friend who works in Gen Z marketing that you got to sell within 5 seconds or they're gone.
That's so great.
5 seconds you have to sell. And so she's trying to figure out, how do I actually sell to Gen Zs in 5 seconds? How do I get a message out there that says buy this within 5 seconds?
Capture their attention.
Is that crazy?
That's crazy.
Sometimes it takes me 5 seconds to say a word because I talk so slowly.
Yeah, let us know how you feel about that change coming in and your perspective. So.
And watch us live on TikTok. Come on, the Reset Group.
Yeah, we're like totally gonna go live, and the irony is we probably will go live.
I know.
Now back to the show.
Because here's what the anger does. Anger is lacking ownership and responsibility. And then we're displacing it or projecting it. So now we're talking about defense mechanisms, unhealthy ways to deal with emotions that enable us to continue to have those emotions. The big ones would be displacement, like it's the old country music song where the guy drinks whiskey, comes home, kicks their dog, right? And so, is that
I don't
new?
know that one.
Yeah.
Who came out with that one? Luke Combs?
I don't even know who that is. That's not even real.
Oh my god!
That's not even a real country singer.
Luke Combs?
Is it?
Yes.
Oh, good Lord. There's other ones, but they're major defense mechanisms would be like projection at that point where, the most common way to say it is the person is actually angry, says, why are you so angry? I'm not angry. You're angry. You're the angry one. You're like, I'm not.
Yeah.
And so they project that emotion onto someone else and they then tell you that you are feeling that way. And the reality is that's what they are feeling.
Or maybe the
inside of them.
projection on a situation when they were telling you a story where it's like they're not taking any ownership of it.
Sure. And then they
Yeah.
have a different viewpoint.
Yeah.
The actual person does. They're seeing through the lens of the actual emotion without even knowing it. But defense mechanisms are there just to preserve that emotion, to keep it going. It enables it. And we don't want to do that at all. But the higher you get into that emotion, fill in the blank where that is, more likely you're going to be stuck in your defense mechanism.
And maybe blind to it.
Yeah, blind spot.
It's like the way you live life.
That's all you know. We can talk, and that goes back to us talking about before, like conditioned self, and then you're being conditioned.
Yeah.
One way just by not what you've seen by, let's say, someone doing it, but also then you just doing it over and over again becomes who you are.
So let's say somebody is on the receiving side of anger. What are the steps and what are the things you do to approach that person? And or if that person isn't willing to get help, like how do you navigate that?
Well, if the person's angry in the moment with you, I would do a nice little timeout sign,
Yeah.
right? Like a basketball player does. Timeout.
Only in basketball.
Yeah, well, yeah, I guess so, right? No, baseball does a timeout.
I know baseball also does like nose, shoulder, wiggle, what?
Is that Luke Combs song? Is that the Luke Combs song that you're singing?
God.
Wiggle, wiggle, what?
Stop.
If the person's angry in front of me in the moment, I would literally say time out, and nothing can be fixed, and nothing can be communicated when there's anger. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to walk away. We're going to come back, and we're going to visit this next day. Tomorrow, I just think we need 24 hours just to, for me at least, to think about it.
Is that person really going to receive that?
If they don't, you walk away. You
Okay.
give them a timeout. Well, if they're not angry in the situation moment, because really what we're talking about is do not be an audience for it. If you're an audience for it, then you're just enabling
So
it
that's why
at
you
that
step
point.
away. Yeah.
You step away. Plus, you shouldn't hear what they're trying to say to you. That could be very hurtful, damaging,
Mm-hmm.
Traumatic. I think about codependent relationships and the amount of women who've just been a witness to, in many ways, the object of displacement for these men. It's just not right or healthy, period. So I think if it's not happening in front of you and you realize, man, that person's really been angry the last few weeks, then just send over a nice little text. Be honest. We talked about this before about friendships. Friends care more about their friends than they do their friendship. And so that's when you either send a text of accountability or just a text leaning into saying, not asking, hey, how are you doing? But speaking the truth. I've recognized and I've noticed, I've witnessed you being this way. And I know you feel this way. I think you need to get some help.
Mm-hmm.
I would like to be part of the solution.
That's good.
Let's meet for coffee.
When you're not angry.
100%. The saddest thing was like 2 weeks ago, we went TikTok live. We were doing question and answers, and a girl asked, how do I talk to my dad about his anger? He comes home from work, he gets so angry, and all I want to do is spend more time with him, but I don't want to spend time with him if he's angry. I was like, man. So we're like, well, how old are you? She was 16 years old. I was like, that's a tough one. That's a tough one. And, my statement, my answer, I'm not sure it was even right or wrong, was, if your mom's involved and your mom is married to dad or even not, it might be nice to take that approach of having the other parent maybe have the ability to have that discussion. So it's adult on adult. The second option I kind of gave her was, sometimes things like this is best done in a letter and written out and in a handwritten letter, just expressing, I want to spend more time with you. I desire to spend more time with you, but I'm afraid to. I have so much fears in our relationships, and I'm scared that when I hit my 20s, I don't want to call you. I don't want to talk to you. I don't want you being around my kids. And I just need to know that you can make changes so you could be someone who's not so angry around me because it scares me, but instead someone who's more of a Joey Bear.
Joey Bear?
No, I said Joey Bear.
Bear-er.
Bear. No, Joey Bear, like the teddy bear.
No, honey bun.
Yes. Think about a Joey Bear. A Joey Bear is it's a little teddy bear.
It's like when we call our daughter a Joy Bear.
No, Joy Bear. She's like the little teddy bear, Teddy Ruxpin.
What does it
that
mean
you
to
hold
bear?
a hug.
What does it mean?
A teddy bear, babe.
What does it mean to bear something?
I mean, to hold on to
it's
it.
It's a
bearer.
Yes. So you're a joy bearer, not a bear.
No. In my mind, see, this is what's funny.
Please, someone.
And this is why I think my clients get confused when I say this, but we all need to be joy bears.
No.
Like a teddy bear that walks in, that hugs everyone. Yeah, it's not. Name one Luke Combs song. You can't.
Do you want to know what song that Luke Combs sings?
Yeah.
One of your favorite songs of all times. When it rains, it pours.
Shut up. I love that song. That is a great song. I love that song because the guy who wrote it actually lives in our
We saw him.
area. Yeah. Well, now that you made fun of me and you're laughing, I'm laughing at each other, it reminds me of one of the greatest ways, I think, to get yourself out of baby Hulk mode and get you into that place where you can handle these specific emotions that we're talking about that's causing your anger, is to watch like a Comedy Central special. Something that's going to
How about
make...
like The Office,
yeah,
Friends,
something that's going to make you laugh and make you smile. So you go from that red zone to yellow zone.
Get out of yourself a little bit.
Yes. And if you're someone's like, I don't like working out, that's not going to work for me, then maybe that's what you do to get in a better headspace and get perspective. Remember, in life, distance gives perspective from the situation. So the more distant you are mentally, and at times time as well, or just distance from the situation, the more clarity you're going to have. And that's exactly what we're kind of looking for, is if you could go to a place and come from a place of clarity versus come from a place of feeling, you owe me, this is not right, kind of a victim, but not really, because there's some true moments where anger is a good emotion to have. And anger is a survival emotion. And anger is something that we all need. It's okay to be angry in certain situations. That helps us. That's our heart telling our mind, move, get out, do something, create a boundary, whatever it may be. But we're talking about emotion that's been unresolved that leads to anger in situations where it's not warranted. Some people, they deal with anger, let's say through grounding techniques or things they're talking about, but then in that moment they're back down. They, I'm fine. And they really don't want to work with the stuff they need to work on. If it's going to be childhood stuff, if it's going to be relational stuff, if it's going to be situational, environmental, whatever it may be.
That's really important to think about, though.
Because you had to go back to that, because if not, then you go back to being a baby Hulk.
coping skills, grounding techniques, all these things are the important thing to de-escalate the anger. But if you're not working on the why behind the emotion and the root of the emotion or whatever is getting you to that point, it will never be resolved.
That's right. And that's the key, is to get to that place where you can then do the work. And the work is either going to be with a professional, the work is actually going and attending to that person, relationship, situation, environment, and creating the right verbiage around it for them to hear it, make the changes that are necessary in it, and or creating the boundaries to put around it, or get the pen and paper out, start journaling, create your own process.
What? The Reset group talking about journaling?
Never. Write it out. Just stop acting it out. Get some insight. Double down on that. Should do that no matter what.
Yes.
What's going on in your life. And maybe a better way to summarize this, especially those who have like chronic anger, is I think a lot of life is, or think of ourselves like a boat, and the anchor in many ways is like our sense of self. It's our healthy version of who we are. It's our balanced thoughts. It's just our ability to be high functional adult, let's say, for example. And when that anchor is not there, we go wherever the waves take us. So we're easily moody. We're easily are moved towards being angry. We are easily persuaded about things that should not move us emotionally or even mentally. And so, but when the anchor is there, storm comes, we're good. Big wave comes, we're good. And so I think when the times when people have chronic anger, either they just don't have that anchor to secure them and to allow themselves to have the perspective, allow themselves to sometimes just weather things appropriately. And instead they get caught up either in the words, in the moment, in pain, old pain, or something that's unresolved. And I think that's what happens. Or as the great country singer Luke Combs says, when it rains, it pours. And I don't know what that means about anger, but I just think that I need to redeem myself that I do know who Luke Combs is.
This podcast is sponsored by Luke Combs.
Yeah. Oh, if only.
Thank you for listening to the Reset Podcast. We're so glad that you joined us. If you enjoyed this episode, would you take a moment to leave us a review and maybe even hit that subscribe or follow button? Also, pay it forward by sharing this podcast with a friend. For free resources and to learn more about coaching for individuals, athletes, couples, and teams, go to theresetgroup.com. And we would love to connect with you on Facebook, Instagram, or TikTok @The Reset Group. See you soon.